4 days it took for us to debut officially here. There have a couple of streams prior. This isn't actually the very first official actual recording or stream in this Gekido Basis project. It's the first that's actually uploaded officially as a stream, though. The session won't officially be marked as one of those from the Iron of Life 12 multimedia project. This is officially placed under the Gekido Basis project channel. If others want to describe me as shameless, that's their problem. Underneath this veneer is an individual that's been running for more than 8 years as a streamer. The dude knows way more overall than what you would, when you were aware. And a matured mentality is barely obvious. And I'm serious, barely. It wasn't really long ago. At least at the time of this stream. EAFC 25 actually come out for early access users. Beyond this, some other matter that's relatively critical that it needs to be noted as well. The long wait with that patent claim and all this. Specifically, I had Powell's that game. I won't get too far in discussing the matter. Well, falling off the chair in a metaphorical sense. Screamed in a sense of joy. If I be honest, then it beyond the point I described at that point, an ultra long time coming as well. The explicit similarities of it and many of the Pokemon from the Pokemon project. I knew from the offset, way back in late January. Along with the host that I normally do this with. The 4K 60 method isn't new neither. This will debut here at 4K 60, and most, but not all of the streams, most streams here on the YT page, or this YT channel. Streamed right up to 3840 by 2160. Sometimes letterboxed. Well, that's what some would say. Cropped would be the more appropriate word. Into the 12:5 format at 3840 by 1600 pixels. For the 12:5 format. One of the cinematic ratios. The caveat, and I want to be very clear, this streamer does run on a native 1440p monitor, and not a native 4K monitor, okay? In a sense, given there aren't too many what you call streamers that run in 1440p 60 peak. That's what I've seen. It's probably, say, 80 to 20. That the peak is full high definition instead of at the 2K format. It's time for a first jump. be sure to get the sound in just before the show starts in earnest. Calibrations we've at this point set. When the mic is peaked at 1, -1. The actual audio of the game at -4. We're doing experiments at -6 and to -5. Then keep in mind, soft or loud, you won't really hear any real distortion, whatever the circumstances. This person really does have a great deal of experience as a music producer. That's what he's actually done for an abnormally long while. Duration's a more appropriate word here. First game coming in shortly. And another matter. Just let this load up first. Still no sound coming out from the actual product. If you excuse me. This issue still is lingering. A range of these issues have also persisted in previous streams too. There's a reason we keep checking the bars. Sometimes just a hit of the mute button and unmute button fixes the task, as that's exactly what I just used then. Starting at 30. Less than. But it's usually they filled up just before that ticker reduces, usually roughly 25 seconds. Podcast. Some such items in the Japanese language, though I don't talk it. Would be aware about some of the basic things, but don't really have too much really then repeating. But just once more, just for the record. Critical that you people remember for the rest of the career of this project. Being hot water in time, but who cares? This is how I do it. Screw what anyone else says. I do this my way. And have been the same dude who used to be singing one of the tracks in the Iron of Life 12 project in the past. But I used the foul tongue at those points. Scrubbing about that age and living in the age that noticing how I hated the society and around, all the BS that I saw. Made me sick to be a human being at the time. Well, that was the use of terms. Before then, having a further change called into the individual, where it was then redesigned on being sort of an android in a sense. Routine stuff. Much like much of the career of many of these multi-year veteran gamers. Well, you'd expect nothing less with. How would you describe it? Other surprises? The player that will always be in control of this project is, as I say, that host I mentioned. Just take a breath. Laying here, that melancholy feeling. Back in action. Patrollers. The friend hitting what's human and enemy. One of those other higher ranked players. Yeah! No, it's over in any case. That's what I mean when I say skills. Each once in a while, yes. We'll have threats where, with the element of surprise and all those little moves, can really deliver fatal limbs like that. And there's occasions it can feel a sinking sensation in the body. If you run as long as I've done, like other players who first played Apex Legends from the offset, it's a very familiar feeling, I assure you. Now bring this game up, given that should have been a product officially already complete, and it's still going into the 22nd season at the time of this stream. We can debate this all we want. And the fundamentals do matter, I know, but there's a point that he's protested, even though he did actually do streams way back in 2020. At the point, he did have the feeling he wanted to try it again at that time, but his opinion is very different now. Though, just in the overall, I just won't be dishonest with you folks. Landscape as a gamer. This and riding the battle bosses through the thick and thin from March 2018. Now you tell me, why give it up? Wouldn't really think, well, it probably equates to the other really well-known IPs as well. You really feel you want to drop a game that you feel that other experiences are not as which are not as deep or tailored better to your needs? Dude, come, you know. It'd be wise I just get this out of the way. The arena shooters from way back in the times when Unreal Tournament and Quake 3 Arena really were the big hits. Although the person was much too young even of the existence of games like them. I've heard of games such as Doom and Quake during that period. At the time, he actually was a dude in the slums in a sense. The family that he was involved, if I have to be quite honest though. Thinking about it, only winning in the, well, actually it's won by a much larger margin than I was ready for. Few certain hardships Probably some bad relationships among other family. Pushed the collective away. Among this, there's much more inside of the actual mind of this individual. Some things may be left better and possibly unsaid. Wouldn't really know. But to live without fear, I can assure you, you won't really be sort of lost to some degree. If you did do so, but might be better that method. And even if you stand alone and feel like that the truth matters more than having to just try to be supporting a herd mentality, there's occasions doing that actually is sometimes of a greater significance. Maybe it's a bit of a threatening feeling. No matter what tone you use, you still have to use your words. No matter if you use them softly, hard, or if such an impact, you scream it out like you're a soldier. Been there and done that many times. Telegraph! And I'm being serious! You shouldn't really then be judging, of course, what you have no idea. Which an individual really is. Then again, don't think I'm a stereotype either. I say again, we do this our own way, not by another agency's rules, or other groups' rules. Fully independent. And we never will ever plan on monetization at any time in the future. Never will even think about it. Never. It fed blood BS of cryptocurrency through my life, so why would I care? Let's be honest though. Maybe we may come off a little abusive. Hey, how about you wake up? This is reality. You don't see too many that actually have the Gekido within. Controlled. And worse. Sometimes they spit venom in really abnormal and sometimes extreme manners. Multiculturalism does fail in many avenues when compared of the ones which have not failed, if that makes any sense. Or at least that's how the interpretations are. They're greater empty feelings utilized upon the circumstances. This only will go roughly 2 hours, by the way. Didn't mention this. The next time that we sort of meet in the middle, in the intersection, be aware. If you're the type of individual who judges by the tone of my own voice, you need to take it. You really need to just check the individual deep. Or if you're not even a fan of hearing us, just mute watch. some of the content could be out of the norm and stuff that may surprise more than you think. Beyond this, the basis design wasn't exactly completely final at the time that this was established. The day before the establishment, there was, creating a new design for the character. We'll just fight on first before moving to the next rather tough pack of different other players around and around. It's shook, if I'll be honest. Did undersleep as well. Doesn't mean, of course, even if you hadn't slept, you still have to just look for a way out. There's occasions you could still win if you really look deep enough. Some relatively lower rank. It's the one threat at large. Making matters more complicated is another group. Already aware of the drill. Yeah! Power kisser! And another strike. Get away this time. I can feel it. Down there. Well, hit the boost. Stay in lieu with, not lieu. Stay in line with your target. The Monarch pistol in hand. Soon to just make a lunge. Don't charge yet. Yeah! Now do it! Strike them all down! I'm still gonna stick with one weapon! The ball players I'm gonna bank. One at large. Your tug splash, let's use that. A term that's much more commonly used in at least recent times with describing, of course, these dual-wielded weapons as akimbo. Normally just use the same dual-wielded weapon. Impact. Another little another important matter I must address, really, to others who listen, was the ESL Pro League season, Pro League 20 was still ongoing, yeah, and there were a few real freakish moments. That was done by a group known, of course, as Navi. People probably would feel that maybe they're foreign if you're a really young streamer or viewer. It's practically done. To remain in hiding again picks me off while I'm in there. Leveled up. Little fanfare music. This is a small break from the action. Just one moment. Small malfunction in the right leg. Yeah. This abnormal flow, every once in a while, that can affect the movements in these legs. Leave it. Been remaining in a seat for too long, and that sometimes is the byproduct. More or less, the numbness in the arms or in the legs, especially those areas. More noticeable with a human body than virtual entity. That doesn't mean that I've seen phase movements and glitches occur in between. Commence on the show once more. Still then waiting for another lobby to jump into. Or, match. Probably the more specific word here. Just to further then state, as we're about to jump in. One of his absolute favorite games anywhere was Quake 3 Arena. It's not very often where he plays this such game. Can run on virtually every single modern PC. Yes, we know that. But in a lot of computers and other ones where if there are a lot of products in Steam or, for other, places in terms of, like, for emulators or other game distros, right? Game distribution websites or other projects. But yeah, placing in context the multiple generations of the graphics card. And yes, the dude has heard numerous rumors, given nothing's concrete yet. This upcoming GeForce RTX 50 series. Either way, the situation just after the first assault. This is it's still a work in progress at this current in this time window. There were a range of ideas that were then set for after the event. And there's still questions where then the project then goes with it. Yes. Let's keep it very straightforward. One of the main ideas was much of the actual place was then surrounded, well, with red voids of various intensities. One of the root concepts, really, which being one of the early ideas in, well, this EP. Where it's likely, well, in the actual development procedures of this upcoming EP, as we're just being struck out to another version of Peely. Then Elim, of course, to this looper. Well, we just seen then. Reignition, or the other saying, Saitanka. Being the name of the next EP, which a few months back, it would have been, what would have been that? That line 2, the break, the hiatus, fight back. Was one of the lines that was used in a promotion. And the nature of the actual production process in one level. There's progress in one. In others, there's other priorities sometimes that take much higher order in comparison to the actual project. A case that I wanted to describe was much more specifically that growth in the Hour of Life 12 multimedia project. Dom wanted to stay just in a small bubble. Yeah, he might want to just expand, but then again, minds even more mentally. As well as fundamentally, through a different extent than what it was in 21 and 22, and in the early years of 23, early months of 23. And there's quite a great deal of other rather abhorrent stuff that's been recently unfolding, too. We call most such events now as evil, as it's practically what it is. And it's also funny. And I'll explain momentarily what I mean. A couple of days back, I and my old team, me as the old ego, and my host, did ask, well, a couple of rather critical subjects. So one that I didn't forget and won't forget. Yeah, at one level, well, it was something we were yelling to each other. So, I'll put it like this. It's a really different culture nowadays than how it was in the late 2000s, the early 2010s. We're speaking in Earthians here. I mean, up in Earth instead of down in this other system that I live in. What's the other entities who were in around this place? I mean, this is explicitly pointing of Earth in general. It's a different hive mentality. Group of so many of the children these days where they're stuck playing games on phones and tablets and so on. You think of it. This tyranny is written on the faces of some of the bigger companies. At the same time though, some sacrifices also had to be made in the earlier sort of parts of the production processes. Makes some sense there, but if you didn't recognize, there's other there's some other extreme events that have also happened. It's swallowed with so much other propaganda and lowbrow stuff. Getting any further, it'll be an SFW. Enough on that. One that, as I say, it's just resonant. Before we go there, it felt like, yeah, you see threats. It didn't see no threats. Kept moving. I was only about to say it just before moving, in earnest. Stop now. Continue the document on-site game at the moment. It's in one of my personal favorite games, the term. Series is probably what I should say, but a few specific games term which I first really picked it up from. Leave it. Push through. Just battle against the other human loopers. Even, you know, like CPU loopers. There's CPU loopers around. One in this first battle It's just head-to-head. Others, if they come, they come. No matter where. This occasion's doing a bit of moving and scout the region. This occasion's that itself is critical. Doesn't always mean it's the best method. Just when it does come for hunting, this occasion is just the waiting game can sometimes work better than the scouting method. One was right down there, but still making its move, actually. Got to get down. Where's that? It doesn't always work. I mean, you see how far off? Someone's placing 5 shotgun blasts and it does about 50 HP damage. Or a little more. Just another fan kid. Well, I'm not guessing. John Wick. Even now, I still think it's still a hard project to follow. Or at least it's me. See, much of the very apathetic feelings. When they lose the dare, and in a sense, their personality, look what happens. This has happened through the course of history. Do you think, as a much older individual, you still think it's maybe easy to assume that it just eventually fades away and then you just become special? There's another threat up downstairs. It's coming closer. There's the threat. Oh, this is the target would be the word. We occasionally do use the saying, down in our little group. Not too many of us. Being one of its leaders, it's a very critical subject matter. Little repositioning can get a long way as a gamer too, you know. Not just that. Little to no significant differences really between a saber soldier and an actual, well, a saber soldier and a gamer. Or both. But sometimes, those lines sometimes are blurry. There wouldn't be any intentions down here in playing this game or a range of other games of where those cases would be it. I will let you know though, even though you probably can argue all you want. It was quite a straightforward elim then. The opponent delivered there. Stated before, shortly before actually running live for this stream, did commentary in a live match for Counter-Strike 2. More specifically, yeah, ESL Pro League Season 20. The Pro League XX, as it's said, and some of its promo material. Yeah, and I didn't forget the Blast events. They're just as important. Yeah, and the majors. And sometimes it really does unleash some of the most intense stuff in my own commentary, trust me. Even if you do not feel right now, in middle of September, you'll think that. Maybe retrospectively, yes. Sometimes the sensations in Valorant and specifically some of the esports events, there's some where it's superior and others it isn't, compared with like Counter-Strike 2. Sometimes some other tournaments, it's not really what you say role play. Excuse me. Yeah, role playing style of game is much more straight in like arena shooters, tactical shooters, and the like. It was more FPS centric than say TPS or some other fields. You feel that? I mean, it's really no one who even knows who I am. At the time this was in the underworld, Really interesting decision. True. Stuff in the underground, just way better than what's over. But even so, you really need to have a tough mind to really get cues from it. But sometimes the attitude is more cannibalistic, I assure you. This is never straight to forward. Each biome, it isn't the same everywhere you go, trust me. Others will be out to get others that are not their type. And with the lack of actual empathy and compassion, you'll see what happens. Vilified and hated. Shunned. Neglected. And leaving others just to simply feed each other instead of what you're normally supposed to do. Some other cultures, not only those cultures, but the more mainstream cultures will do that too. It's to stab some individuals in the back. In a metaphorical sense. Deception. It's like the strongest suit. Creepings together! Not too often you see this. Without ammunition in this weapon. Downstairs. Fight! Head upstairs now. Just keep... Hey, hang on, they're not Mac 10s. Well, wielding some set of submachine guns. Mistake. Wasn't always going to util it. And there's actually more instances where just rather utilizing pistols and other small guns instead of these other much more powerful weapons. will at least repeat this once more, if you didn't really pick it up in the cleanest of ways. Yeah. Quite often the person prefers staying underground instead of over. But it's rough sometimes. Probably rough. More often than, well, even some who already know it. But maybe that comes down again in the environment. It's just some points I just think back. Animal species, more specifically. But it's not so easy to really do live commentary about the actual events what go on in animal behavior. Much of it's quite boring. Relatively simple little things. But there's rarely moments that you can actually experience a hunt during a live stream of, hunts by animal species, right? It comes and goes, yeah? And it's the way some events in the actual animal kingdom does happen. There's more land animals than it is like sea animals or birds, for example. Small break before checking next phase. The direct B line. Little to no other obfuscations along the way. Empties it. Yep. Threats in this ring here. Wait, don't have a sniper rifle or any equivalent weapon. Closer range weaponry would be still the preference. In the circumstances, still say it is better than, at the moment, just to continue procurement, which sometimes it's insignificant, if I be honest. It's about the 20th time that I noticed it landed. I mean, 4 instances this stream, but previously, roughly 15, maybe over 15 separate instances seeing this ship landing the way it did. Same way, effectively. Being a little careless. Let's check your shoulders. Can lay down and save some of your energy for later. Let's just be very clear. point to reduce any plosives? Do I think it matters? Sometimes improving emphasis, sometimes I personally feel, is more critical. Others simply just point out those don't really matter much. Hey, you people need to then notice I do commentary as well. It isn't so straightforward either. It's not easy bearing what you call seeing actors doing their roles when sometimes they themselves just do not know the specific way to emphasize. Some of them were not even trained to even think in using emphases in everyday life. Rest assured, it's tough sometimes even listening to others. They do the same. They just do not, and I really mean this, recognize of the importance to emphasis in general when doing commentary. Even some of the recent games I've been following, and half of the time I just prefer to literally mute, cut the audio off. Notice the voices sometimes are unbearable in some situations. You see where I'm going with this. There's occasions they even, well, more recently anyway, AI programs differentiate differentiating real voices with the fake voices sometimes still can be a pain in the rear. And sometimes nearly indiscernible between the two. You probably see what I'm about to then say. All the content I do comes from my own voice, even if pitch shifted. It's just... And here's the gist. It's that unique... I guess, adjustment. It makes the basis that others would know. Instead of, say, the normal voice, without a pitch shifter. Others probably figure out, of course, how I normally would sound. Just pointing out once again for the record, I'll have the time to sit and speak. The dude can't get every opinion in queue. There's some points, a great deal of scanning and analyses need to be read firsthand. It's occasions just stay stuck in one area without any search results. Yep, a culture it sometimes does just... At one level, I can relate, but in others, I cannot. If you have any clue what this is about, I was saying again that there's still specific occasions you sort of feel some programs do use AI generated sounds in, mimicry and impersonation and so on. Albeit not too many know about it. But it's not the core subject. Anything goes, really. Even now, it's really tough to try to figure if I can still follow those other games, well, in some of Nintendo's franchises. I'll be honest with you, let alone in some other established companies. Can't really do much. It just feels it's really only leading just in a situation just like this. Randomly wandering from area to area in the whims of the player. Input. Final 10. Still some others to be rebooted, assumedly. For the moment, to abandon. Vehicle. Only a presence, so I seen, but nothing beyond that. Into the next region that the player chooses to go. Isn't some simple decision. There's an area that, well, we're avoiding under nearly every circumstance. Drop by! No real connection. To a spot fight. Looks more like to remove this. It's exactly what occurred to me. Struck one target down before elimination. A few really rough little stories that have come around. As I say though, hearing there's a little story which I personally had picked not long after it actually happened. Somewhere in early at the end of January, and debated beyond about the 29th and the 30th of January. There's numerous obvious sort of differences. It doesn't mean... Well, it doesn't then mean that I really could relate on the hype of Power World at the time. And I mean to say that I really was left more disturbed. Not just of the actual overall content. That reminds me of some of the Monster Hunter games, but the actual visual similarities really between it, the pals in the game, and of course the Pokemon. Is what I was saying earlier. It's another brief break. Yeah, just taking another short, just to take a short break. Yeah, shortly I will then explain. Whatever the case, no, I will continue to speak. First, you'll be seeing of these assets, which reading, well, excuse me, it's more specifically the actual lines start, standby, and ending in that order. And with those other, excuse me, the other videos complementing in the streams for the, at least in this launch version of the Kikito Basis project. At the very end of many of the streams, two things occur. I yell, "Stream is over!" Calls it! That's exactly what I say. Then followed with the, "It's now safe to turn off your OBS stream," which itself has been used in the Honor Live 12 Multimedia Project live streams in both on YouTube and on Twitch. That but it's much more often utilized in the YT channel through its OBS host instead of in the other PC with that aforementioned OBS host as well. I mean, with, excuse me, not aforementioned, with its OBS host, which I use. Previously did have a bit of experience with the Streamlabs desktop program. That and why? Skill filtering many assets and sources and so on are still really important to remember. Right now, this background will just more opaque like this. Approximately 94%. It's approximately 94% opacity. Excuse me. Small, a bit of pain up on the throat region, as I say. Before doing the live stream, it was one of those really short and sharp shots of commentary. There was really one moment that was nearly, well, I wouldn't say a one-of-a-kind moment, but extraordinarily rare situation. This occurred, of course, of one player that did 2 close-range kills, and then out of effectively nowhere, in killing a third target while still completely obfuscated by a smoke grenade. It's one that just placed me in a sense of, well, a very rare sense of shock, if I'll be honest. It's something I almost never see in practice when watching Counter-Strike 2 esports events, let alone general esports events in the form, like FPS and those things. So what would I care? But I want to elaborate this again. I'm actually not watching very many other users on the net at the moment. It does get a bit uneasy when, as I say, under sleep. Like a nap, if I be frank. Right, as I'm just checking, I may do a bit of do something live in a moment. Another switch. Do it. Something entirely different from... Well, not entirely different. I mean, very often. Most streams are usually pure. There's only usually this standby screen in the other. This one's different with... Well, one program over the other. Will I say this? Rarely in the actual Hour of Life 12 project does the man himself actually speak. I can assure you, though, in very off occasions, the chats here and there. Don't have to start off on talking about Minecraft and stuff. Was this some other server that's... just some small metaverse thing. Past that subject matter, wouldn't hide the realization of course, the virtual streamer addiction. But the root difference, though, is if doing so, I just usually just muting everyone. Not too different from games. Beyond it, at this point too, as well, some other, event that just usually happens annually with 12. These specifically matter about age and so on, but I won't get too deep into it. I mean, at the point, time of this recording, I'll be honest, upstream, as others would effectively be dubbing this as. Some other specific event only just started on, and this another esports event only began then. Then I need to start tracking it from this point. You get a little hint too of some of the commentary that I actually would do with some of the projects. We'll be involved in probably doing watch parties here and there. The content I do is just fully free. Yeah. It's this ideology we stick with. To never throw out our independence. It's the way that we used to call this in mid-2010s. Staying true to that intention. Never really thinking of profit and stuff. The greed sometimes. It's a problem sometimes. Knowledge and experience in general. It's hard really replacing it. Just give a few hints too of what I'm actually doing. And I may be here doing this for a while. Didn't really have the motive wanting to play actor. There's another for G2 Esports just then. Well, it's a match of G2 versus Team Liquid. Surge with absolutely no resistance in round 3. Perfect round, in other words. It all occurred in 3 seconds. And then it was over. Nearly. It's as simple a strategy you can imagine. It's just 5 sheep enters inside, and all the hunters literally pick them off as fast as a blink of the eye in a metaphorical sense. Then suddenly, feels like it's just going to be one very ugly session, am I right? Or at least at this point, you'd expect a fight back. The reason that they're in this tier for a reason. There's many events in numerous esports circles and events when they're live. Some just when you least expect it. More specifically, very certain moments that are nearly well, somewhere if many are new commentators and so on, it would really just be virtually one of a kind moments. They're of an very rare situation, and just watch another player from G2 who just picked 3 enemies off. There's a serious contrast of the actual ability between one and the other. In a sense, though, this start really wasn't what I originally had expected in my head. Let's place this in context. I won't lie about my age. The person that, well, the human being inside is nearly 32 years of age. And yet, because so few even could really understand the real self, excuse me, few outsiders actually know the real him, or the real entity that plays from those, channels or saber tunnels, as is the term that we stick with, because it's yeah. It works. We'll just put it like that. In this instance, is an actual fight in round 5 here. And once again in a whimper. This is in this instance, though, that with Team Liquid this time, and then, as I say, first point, or at least in this map, just watch it detonate just now. Among, that Valorant fix, it's sometimes tough. And there's points where, based on some titles, it can be abusive. I mean, hey, listen. He's speaking like a Manavi. In a game from over, 25 years ago. Wasn't exactly a fan of adventure games of that, point. Many such games, I just don't think I can really follow. That even includes a few of the premier groups, companies. Some do make hits and some wouldn't. Just a small pause before starting back again. There's a couple of shots directly in the head. Full versus 2. With the bomb planted only then. In the moments, just moves out. Some small resistance. I mean, it was what, a 2 versus 4. Well, it took 2 kills before that was done. Well, in the current moments, it isn't exactly... very much activity actually going on of actual streamers who are running live at the moment. This was done since, well... insomnia probably would be the only word I'd actually describe of the situation, which 12 was. Well, I'll just be very honest. Even if it's a debut stream, up here in this channel, I mean, the live stream, I mean, not videos, right? There's already videos where, at the point of this recording, I can't say that term, just sometimes it fits better. Well, at the time of this stream, well, only 2 videos, and it was specifically about the Gekito Basis Project establishment on the 4th. Well, that was 4th September 2024. Alternatively said as 4th September 2024. It's different flex, so... much of the other content outside of this Gekito Basis project, outside of the streams I'm talking about, mind you, is a bit more, what would you describe as just an actual compilation of some of the clips that I was just doing just during the processes. But yes, the nature doing streams, where there's a great deal of just rather boring commentary according to some. If the fundamentals, you start to push harder. And that the excitement just grows bit by bit by bit. If it just hits a peak, then it just hits it. And you just do it the way you usually would. This probably seems hard for most viewers to be swallowing what I'm about to say next. There was some amateurish sessions I actually did in the past, in 19 and both in 19 and in 20. Mostly commentary for PUBG back then. Each once in a while there are still events. An event that passed and I think had probably one of the very best finishes in the entirety of the PUBG Nations Cup, which I've been following since 2019. Yeah, and I really missed the presence of the Russian team in it. Enough. I do know that. I do know the fact that I actually was there watching the last two matches in the PUBG Nations Cup 2024, Day 3. I'll just elaborate this as straightforward as possible. Team Korea against Team USA for the top spot. And even in the middle of match 18, it was all on the table. And either the USA team or that Korean team, I should say, an experience, it actually feels rare. And these days, I don't actually watch too much PUBG. Do still take the opportunity here and there to do so. It's a game where little really has evolved. It's much like Apex Legends is, where not much actually evolved ever since its inception. I don't care if others would say it actually has grown bit by bit by bit by bit. I've not actually seen that! Like maybe others have. Ones that have dedicated as much time playing them games. What I do know, the dude was first in Fortnite Battle Royale from March 2018. Currently, I wouldn't exaggerate, one of the mainstays, yep, alongside some of the hollow indie stuff. You think I'm lying? He really, really likes the Hololive Treasure Mountain game, which itself evolved from Fruit Mountain. At least the way I read it, anyway. Was saying that after the Reclass group, it'd have to be the Hollow English groups. There's 4 of them, given some time ago there used to only be 3. And in a sense, I'm still, is still depressed there was not an actual 7th generation. Still, that may be just me though. Reclass actually are not a bad group, if you compare it like the 4th, 5th, and 6th. They have their place. Some are great and others are, more of a mill. It's very debatable. It's because, let me be just serious. With groups like them, I don't actually really listen. I just usually watch. Mute watching is what is usually the term. No, it's brought up because, there were the 6 core, I say generations, but I say groups. Though, I wouldn't say I'm really deep of the whole history of Hololive. I know it started way back well, the really early years in the virtual spaces. And not long before, actually, when PUBG first launched, actually. Even if, of course, the, well, in the host project that, well, first actually streamed in late 2015. But a very different environment existed, even for him. It was only around July and August 2022, after really researching deep in the whole project, the full project, where was he really aware of the actual existence in like the core sort of, you'd say, virtual idol projects or groups or agencies or so on. But I'll leave others alone on it. It isn't that much indifferent really when Overwatch first really hit in the circuit. It was just surrounded with a lot of lewds and so on. Stuff I don't normally endorse. Mostly, a great deal of that NSFW content. Nowadays, I personally categorize what's usually safe in one folder and in a separate folder, the not safe for work, or, the abbreviation for it. So, it has worked previously. I'm still gonna stick with it. It doesn't exactly then mean that you then separate them on those forms. Some other characters in other forms of fan work and fan art and whatever, cosplaying or dressing up as other characters, occasion, it's more often video game characters or actors, actresses, just other characters from like animations. Shouldn't then forget that in many ways, a lot of the other, there's many other circles where, yes, there's a great deal of work involved in the inputs of the people. There's different waves that a lot of individual and other groups do right. Look, we'll just say it in a sense, just a fan, yeah? Though, it ain't my favorite agency either. But somewhat down the road, I'll explain what exactly it really is. Still 8 points to 3 at the end of 11 rounds. Still one left before the halftime break. In Team G2 over Team Liquid at this point. Out that they come now. In the last round of the half. Does also follow PDC darts. Isn't. There's other rugby tournaments, stuff like. Well, usually, a lot of European rugby and the NRL, up in Australia as well. But on that subject, the actual, Australian football in AFL, in particular, is the personal favorite subject, the personal favorite actual sport to follow. Where at this point it was in the preliminary final phase of the 2024 AFL Premiership season, you know. But this is some. It's a message too, in where the actual project name is indeed Geki no Pesos Project, though it doesn't exactly mean everything is loud, like a dude in a megaphone, right? There's much more than simply using the megaphone on circumstances. But at the same time too, this person has had a great amount of experience as a bedroom music producer. Thus, is able, no matter, speaking softly or with a booming intensity in his yells and shouts and so on, where there's no clips or very little distortion. So at one point, I'm above most of the other actual streamers, to where they probably use like an SM7B or whatever those other sort of dynamic microphones are, condenser microphones are. And just use an SE Electronics S7 or an SE Electronics V7. Just a plain V7 microphone. One that has, I feel, slightly higher clarity than SM58, which I do own one of those too. Yeah, and a Bear Dynamic 770 Pro, I think. DT770 Pro. Some other streamer that I like, by chance, also uses the same headset. Enough in that exact point, but I'm just saying it as it is. The way I do here next weekend is TGS. A range of quite crazy antics going on during the halftime break. Semi-final action sometimes is not enough for some. If you've seen enough tennis matches and enough football matches, that's soccer as well. Here, well, at least in this culture, we call the round ball form of football as soccer. We don't use football or some other sort of accented or, other equivalent. Yes, it's the sport usually. Last I read. And athletes in it. Elite athletes in that sport, which are based either in South America or in Europe. It doesn't exactly mean every player that does play that sport. You learned that the hard way. And sometimes I'm tired of the homophobia that comes with some forms. You should leave some players alone. There's too many scum that exist, and they repeatedly just want to attack others. It's not that indifferent, really, than most other sports. Try and at least, then take awareness. We shouldn't be pointing out, this probably seems a bit controversial of me to say this. Many of these sports isn't created only for heterosexual individuals, okay? And in a sense, if you want to walk backwards, you go ahead. Then I ain't really one that fits in that demographic neither. It's a bit of a hybrid, more masculinity and femininity in terms of the tone. You keep staring. There's some instances hypnosis can override in relatively uneasy places. Time now is 3 minutes after 2 here locally. I do sometimes, well, in the Hour of Life 12 channel, is sometimes does use the Japanese standard time code for a secondary clock. Given some of the actual streams does use games which either, for example, Toho Project and some other local games in Japan, for one, and many other titles that are multilingual, or in other words, where it's released in one package in multiple languages. This experiment earlier this week, that was as part of the Hour Life 12 multimedia project, which it is there, right? A combined session, some of it playing Spectre Divide, and then others, and another session in Valorant. One immediate difference, which I describe as significant in the UI in itself. On the former, the way if you switch it to another language, it automatically switches from one language to another. If you say, for example, the English to French or from English to Japanese. That and vice versa. Where it doesn't require having to reboot or restart the client for the actual changes to actually take effect. It actually just happens. Unlike, as I say, that method which actually occurs on Valorant. You have to close the actual client firsthand before you actually can notice the language difference. Something that it's uncomfortable. Actually, not only is it with Spectre Divide either, it's in X Defiant where, or in many games actually by Ubisoft if I remember rightly. Well, use the PC build more in recent days anyway. Recent times, anyway. In where many of the new games, yes, switch not only the actual text and the visual, I mean, you know, like at one level of the text, but voice and audio as well. To some extent, yes, I do see the X-Defiant game with, well, some depth. The nature of it being an arena shooter, ones which you can remember. The many games which came out in the mid and late 2000s themselves are revolutionary, more so on consoles than on PC. To some degree, the real sort of origin of, well, modern shooters, of course, was Half-Life 2. Another subject matter for another time, even if the dude hasn't exactly played it much. That Legacy, though, with the Source engine, and one of the very first games that ran on it, we never can ignore the significance. And those other players, which are running, well, very few even play Titanfall these days, but Titanfall 2 more so than the first. Among a few other games, I mean, it's been stated, of course, originally is a Source engine game, but then was modified so much that it's a different engine. Not that much different from the IW engine in, Call of Duty games. Right? Shouldn't exaggerate. It isn't to say that I actually hadn't really played too many what you call backrooms games either. This other story I actually did read. You're probably gonna find it really uncomfortable. The next subject I was going to mention. You people, well, outside the ones who already have known, it was just a couple of days ago. I mean, on about the 18th of September. It was a 13-4. It's over already. And that battle in G2 just crushed them. Crushed Team Liquid in the first map. Well, it felt like it. Just about to look. I'm just only about to look. And 13-3. That's a completely one-sided outcome after the end of the half. It's absurd. And what's happened's happened. I actually have no interest in following the rest of that battle. And I'll read it after the fact. I'm just in the mood to go offline, but I sometimes need to take a break. I feel I've run it for a little too long, in a sense. Let you point out I will do at the least two more games in this fortnight before officially stopping here. Although, perhaps shortly after. Whoops. Shortly after, you could do a separate, just free talking stream, and I'll give you a gist of exactly who I am as well. Been a fair way to put wearing a game, of course. And all that other time was just speaking. In more recent times. I do streams with delays. It plays not only here, But it's a lot of streams in the Hour of Life 12 channel, or channels I should say. Sometimes it does simulcasting, and if you feel doing simulcasting is a straightforward art, you think again. Unless you use two PCs with the same, I guess, sort of stream product, it can be easy enough, but others... Yep. It's way out of your league, unless, of course, that you're familiar with the fundamentals of actual streaming. To be truthful with you folks, few schools would ever teach you about scale filtering, but using it in images, in particular really high-resolution images and media content such as 4K videos and even higher fidelity like 5K, even 8K. If, of course, your PC's powerful enough, running them said files without stutter or slowdown, yeah, such as using like a 4080 or a 4090. GeForce RTX 4080 or 4090, I mean to say. Yeah, then that's fine, but usually refrain using what you call one PC build. I mean, I actually don't care if you do or don't. With one PC built to do all. Yeah, streaming and gaming in one. There's some who feel it's warranted. In my view, though, it does come with some serious detriments, which may not be easy to pick up. And it's even more of a problem for a new gamer. This, in really off instances, even if the build was really advanced, unless that you actually have either a PCIe or PCI X1, X4, whatever equivalents that they use, and micro ATX or a straight ATX sized motherboard that has a slot for one of those. Remaining on the realms of 1080p 60 for a pretty long while, right? I would say it's actually not a big deal. I do digress personally, but it doesn't exactly mean running 1080p 60 in these situations actually can be attained on all computers. Let alone the configuration. Excuse me. We'll just fight first before even thinking through that. One down. This reminded me of a specific Yu-Gi-Oh character, but I won't get too deep about it. But it does, I mean, I wouldn't exaggerate. See what colored outfit. And then nearby, don't know exactly where that. Top floor, I'd think. Oh, actually, it's second highest. This one is. This air soldier. Still saying that even now. It's one of those double, well, a certain agent from, well, the one that first was actually in, Chapter 2, Season 1. V11? Well, the first was routine, the rest, an extra effort. I'm not done with you yet! Cowardly. Sure. It's said in a context given they didn't really fight back with the weapons what they wield. They occasionally do worry more of their, allies instead of anything else. Really, well, just get in my skin occasionally, Sometimes getting under my skin sometimes is what I was meant to say. It's the one at large. One switch. Has a grip and muzzle brake. Well, this AR anyway. Speed grip, I think, is the actual saying. It can be useful. I prefer a little vertical full grip, however, but that's just my personal, way out of it. Yep. We'll just then explain pretty clearly which, this dude's favorite, not me, but, the host's my favorite sports that he usually follows. Can occasionally, as I say, in soccer and rugby league, as I said before, but it's primarily, in Australian rules football. Can occasionally watch state level events as well. Bit of baseball in here and there, but given the in my view, the rather extreme themes and general nature of other things that happen behind closed doors in baseball, that I actually condemn to some degree. It's not to say it's great or nothing. Well, I don't know the exact saying. I was reading recently, there was another immense milestone recently reached of Otani himself. This is remembering those finals are not too far away in American MLB. So, that end, yes. Another premier sport, of course, of the USA is, of course, the American football, or in this case, NFL. I mean, the college level's pretty brutal nevertheless. There's another group of combatants that are there too. I just know there's gunfire away somewhere. Anyway. Small pause there. Yeah, it's in control enough. Yeah, put all four of the chug splashes in the one place. And you're right where I need you now. The line may be a little out. That's the only issue I can think of at this time. that the reactions is just a little slower than normal. Miss more often than I usually do. It won't complain no matter. Where's that other combatant? Just over there! You missed a bit? Farewell! Back into the lobby. There they go. Not me, I mean. That's another squad to wipe. The story game, you know, superior tactics can sometimes one up against a more collective sort of mentality. This again comes to this, just the general skill level of the others. And they don't always deliver. And I see it in this sense. Can be comprised really of amateurs. They might not claim that. Some of them, they actually part of groups which they just join together for good times. Sometimes just playing different sort of series of games. Some they sit and play party games, you know. Similarly, you know, let's play games. Like comprising of 3 members or 4 members or sometimes more than 4. Then once the, you know, doing live streams. The same attachments. We keep moving on. But you can't exactly decide where they're all next. Just for the moment, I will keep checking in this actual scores in each other's TV. But only through that source would I check the actual outcome of it. Either way, that other battle on the other quarterfinal that took place, given 3 of the 4 teams now only have their place in the SF. Listen, it's a little past the 2-hour mark. It's you know, past the minimum. Look, but I need to clear it up. Many of the videos which will come out under this Geeky Dope Basis project, it's mostly, well, nobody would categorize with what's clean and what's explicit. There really will be a serious difference between the two. But it is not simply just to beep out any of the such words, right? The act of self-censoring takes years, really, before eventually that you feel it's all well, in cases where it's just all hits in, where it's minimized so much, where the explicit terms then are used, more or less thrown away and just replaced with other such sayings. Even so, that's not so easy. Sometimes, and you're sometimes really stuck onto some other strange houses. In a sense, it comes to which lessons you do learn in the real world. 195 damage. Few of them can withstand that much. Keep going. Fall! I'll come back and slip you. And elim you. Just like that! Yeah, it took a little more than I thought, actually. It's nearly 20. Nearly unstoppable. But this is against much lower level players, though, so that's I mean, if against a really high-ranked group, this would have been done and dusted very quickly and swiftly. Not a very... Again, it's not an easy art with self-censoring your, different vocabularies. And even more so if in the game as a commentator. Not only just for your own games either, by the way. Sometimes doing, for example, sporting events or some other events. It sometimes does invoke a feeling of fear, too, in the individual. Or that compulsion of exclaiming, directly to others, screw you, with the fingers up. Or fist clenched, if that makes any sense. Yeah. Beyond this, some differences does come on the culture in its own. Another group to take. Straight into capture! Another one down! He's a point on the raw skill. There's that, but... Hey, again looks like it's a group of lower level players. Which exhausted from the battle before. But there's sometimes the question of which of them are actually human players. There's some occasions that even I can't tell. These are the nature it is. Usually some distribution of some that are human and some that are AIs, right? And wouldn't then point out that I've trained enough. I mean, there's a great deal of what I would call amateur commentary I did in the past, too. You didn't mention, as I say, in in some of those PUBG esports events. I don't want to hear that! There's enough stuff that would want me just feeding and the egos of others. There are numerous other little terms that some viewers aren't even familiar with yet because I've only just established. It isn't simply about the rage. If you've learned in the many years following others, this stuff is just a dime a dozen, of course. Others, though, who are new on it, they need to recognize straight up, I do not, and I really am being serious here, well, live on the same cultural places that these others live in. Still a workout in the arms, though. Though, it's a little while until hitting the soft limit. Rubber bands, and I'll be using those shortly. The normal configuration, given that I do utilize 2 PCs and using 4 different mice, which, well, let's put it like this. 3 different mice, I should say. Where for the streaming PC, it's 2 different, well, 2 different types of mouse, with, wide one, which is the main one, and the wireless one, which is the secondary. It usually has either Bluetooth or wireless actual mouse itself, but it's pretty advanced in relation of the type of mouse and Bluetooth tech. A small thing. The last group to thwart. It's likely to just be eliminated, but we'll see what happens here. But they indeed were down this area. Must have shifted. But it's likely that they're still in that vicinity. There they are! Actually. Feels like it is the end, but we'll see. We'll never want to give it up. One hit though, and it is done. Here. Wasn't to be. It was clear that if it was one hit. Just using that Monarch pistol, yeah, but chance could have come. It didn't unfold the way that even in my mind it should have. We'll do one last one at the least. And that note as well, get out the band. Really, sometimes I get sick of hearing some of the same music. There's others that are great, but here's one I know. Right here, that's still in his classic, you know, Hot Marat. I didn't think many of you would remember. This is some really strange movie. Even now I don't even want to rewatch it. You know the one. And then knows that Ralph also, well, tried to break into the internet as well. It did come from a project with a similar name. Some dude named Ralph, I just say. Breaking the internet. It turned into something much more. Specifically a film that was separate from it. It was dubbed Ralph Breaks the Internet. But I prefer Ralph for very obvious reasons. Even now, you know? It came out a little over 10 years ago, I know, but... there still is that impact. Both that and Frozen. You know those two films? It isn't exactly... well... these exactly... that's the subject matter is still debatable to some. I'd say similarly with a lot of really strange anime. Both now and obviously in the many years past. I still think the One Piece project still exists. To think, of course. Pokemon anime are still being done, created. I mean, I lost interest, and I won't get too in-depth. Yeah, you know, beloved voice actress who passed away recently. Not that recent, I'm mad. Yes. For a voice which the likeness of... it's the name of a... there's also a name of a character in Fate Grand Order as well. I'm just trying to remember. If I remember, Musashi Miyamoto, I think. Check again later. We're both... we didn't know the likeness of... where Kojiro came from too, you know. I'm pretty sure over here in the English-speaking territory. Her name was Jessie. But, Team Rocket? Yeah, indeed it was. Musashi. Don't quote me on it, I think it is correct. But the appearance, obviously, of the version of Fate Grand Order, maybe this is getting a little too intrinsically deep. But then, there was that Saber effect, of course, in a lot of the female characters in the Fate series. It doesn't exactly mean I was really a big fan from the start. It's, well, in a single event like Arknights. But I do, well, like Arknights and Blue Archive, and other parts of Genshin Impact. Some other stuff of the MiHoYo company. And these other games that they did as well. Just to name a handful. And at a specific degree too. Certain other characters were just really just to be blunt, and similar saying, hang on a moment. Love at first sight situations. The very first time I used that one word. Yeah, the L word. Some will say it that way, but small threats near. Take the Monarch pistol, and then let them come to you. Set! Switch! And attack like this. Another at large here. Set. Maybe actually outside, actually. Past the walls. Yeah, hang on. Scuff, is it? Sure. You're in there. I can see you. Point blank. The winner or loser is the loser, and well, this player here is the winner. I'll be calling this as it is. It's the last match, which I'll run. There's much more. Just have the point. Yes, be called a nomad for a reason. Just do my own thing, and I'm done wanting to listen to, well, the fools who they feel that they know better. But in the end of it all, perhaps more feels a joke than it is genuine skill. There's others which do really have the skill, and still teaching others. I mean, there's two things which actually occurred. I did 2 separate matches of commentary, private. Well, two sets, two forms of commentary. I did it. I done one of the AFL preliminary final matches, and done commentary for the Friday one. And just to be frank, it's as expected. I felt. The original intent I actually had in my head nearly was identical, really, to the result that actually unfolded in the game, but the other feeling given the other team really worked hard in getting the position, then you wonder, of course, the team that had the witches in it. And this come around because there was a dude nicknamed the Wizard from the other club. It ain't the Farmers. It's the Watsons, but this, as I will point it out one more time, you kids to understand, I'm speaking again about AFL, Australian Rules Football. There's another of these combatants to stop before. Moving along, the subject. For now, take a seat and defend. Others come. May stop you, maybe. And again. It's all routine stuff. Picking your moments too are critical, sometimes. It isn't all about just charging. No matter. Just pause that briefly. Was only passed on the message to relay is specifically what 12 told me then. Wrists under an immense amount of pressure. So therefore, when this is calling this the final match, and he's telling me also to also do commentary for the spectating part if eliminated that early down the road. Isn't time to strike yet. This, and he's explaining too that he's also checking of the score of this next map. I assume it's Team Liquid's pick. Well, actually it isn't. It's G2's pick, but it's running in opposite directions at the moment. After 9 rounds, 6 points to 3 Team Liquid, which, as you know, G2 in the first map, which just dominated at the first map. Back in! It doesn't feel like much is going to happen, though. Don't take action yet, don't fire, no. You don't have a sniper rifle. You have to check the events unfold around. And sometimes the points of scouting. Don't see them now, can't see them now. Yeah. as before, remaining explicitly defensive here. In relation to the count of teams left, yeah, it's 9 others are left in this. 25 other players. One right here. This attacking was. Excuse me, one target. But that's that. Simple. See another at a distance just here. Really, well, wandering with, well, there's some intent. Just leave them to be rebooting the teammates there. Leave them. Them instances sometimes to patrol the region. If other threats come close, you at least are ready to some at some level. So be it. If we stutter, you stutter. But you should at least try to remain all-eyed in situations like this. It doesn't always mean you need to have them wide open every time. Well, if any such potentially imposing threats do come, stare sometimes. So check your 6 and even your 3 o'clock and 9 o'clocks, right? In some other circumstances, to check your corners too. But that doesn't mean you check everything. You just have to figure which regions they are. You may have to check the corners when you get in. But sometimes it's a lot of these sticks and stones style tactics come around. Further complicating, well, technique. Some ranks thinned again. It's starting to really get in my nerves now. Routine patrolling. But there's occasions this can really become very boring in some very specific situations. There's cases that you don't have to rely on only your eyes. You'll use your ears on some occasions. 12 rounds are complete. That's up here. Let me check. It's 7 points to 5. The last 2 of these rounds, G2 had 1 up to close this points gap to 2 points. In the instance after the end of halftime, it's still Team Liquid up 7 to 5 at the end of the first half. With that 12th and last round being relatively easy. Just 1 casualty right at the end of that. Team G2. Any second and the next switch up is in. Maybe now high time to start taking the initiative. Both. remain on these, less beaten paths. And the occasions to switch stuff around is imperative sometimes. Be directly in conflict of other enemies. Sometimes the placement of where you land is actually critical as well. A bit indecisive, I'll be honest. Ditch the machine! And up the zipper. Start striking. And maintain your focus in the other enemies around. Sometimes just that compulsion to a little XP gain while you're doing your work. There's still some matters that are still relatively serious. There's the threat over here. Indoors now. This may just end in a swoop. For now, it's mostly clear. Wouldn't exaggerate. Concealment isn't exactly the solution. You have a small waiting period before it starts to shrink once again. It's the end, is it? Sometimes you would feel that the ocean under the lake underneath is flat. But you sometimes have to ask, is it? Well, if it was a big flat, yeah, that would have been the end. It just accidentally just slipped. Layers occasionally can be a bit of a pain in the rear. Just remain with the same strategy. Straight up anticlimax. And that's how it's going to end. Probably should have done this if I knew that the actual, lake itself wasn't what you call. Actually, well, deep enough that it's almost you're entering a pool. In the lanes. I'll just run for 20 minutes to chat before I close this in earnest. Yep. And again, it'll be for 20 minutes. I just had to hit the exit button. From here, we'll just be talking. Still, yeah, the door's closed in terms of the game. Sure, well, anyway, that other insulting little bit, and I can understand the pain too, of those actors too in the SAGAFTRA. can accept why that they've done a strike. Well, a little while back. More specifically, the use of AI VAs, or AI voice acting, where, nothing really essential come around. But then, I'm getting tired of, the seriousness of some of the wars that happen. The real problem sometimes. Well, in just many instances, you would never know what's a scam and what ain't. There's different legacies, and you wouldn't wake up. In other forms of scamming, some that have been around since the times when the net first really come around. So there's those points. Good end in the whimper. So be it. The person has hit the limits. A screwdriver first. And the reason for the screwdriver. This handle's loose. Do use a microphone stand to do this form of speaking and stuff. Hence it uses, of course, one of those grips. I couldn't think of the right saying. I mean, I don't... You wouldn't really exaggerate. I mean, using microphone stands, why it's important when you're gaming. I mean, many know that already. Others would use boom handles. Or like one of those boom stands. Yeah, little things. Yeah, there's others which are effective and better than, say, the microphone, an actual microphone stand, like a microphone tripod, for example. They use, Yeah, using a microphone tripod in the instance with me. For sitting a microphone on top of. We could describe it as a rather old school form of, sort of MCing in a sense. And an option too to use it in freehand. Maintain reading the scores. Most likely, at least with looking at the score here. A third map will be required in order to really determine the winner of this match to the one who moves into the SF in ESL Pro League, well, Counter-Strike 2, ESL Pro League number 20. Where it is now after 16, 11-5 in Team Liquid's favor, or in this instance, when the format in the 4 rounds in the second half all won by Team Liquid. Okay? Let's maintain a real simple sort of ethos in this sense. Either way, yep, probably small moments that are still theatrical. There's a bit of candy tum sucking as well. Anyway. It's still a little while before effectively putting the stream off. The order of the way these streams end in this channel is already an asset to test. In the same day that the project actually established. In truth, there was still some other assets which were still in either in progress or yet to be created at the time when the actual project itself had established nearly 2 weeks ago, or at least since this first live stream here on YT. Anyway. Another heads up. Since, yes, the majority of content in this project will be here on this channel, and a few streamed first in Twitch. And given the choice, at least to the user, to state that there's some real issues in making 2 pages, which I think requires 2 separate email addresses to create, if I remember correctly. Anyway, for the one channel to do the two different projects, but it's usually is what houses well, like the namesake, of course. Very few others that outside of that said project name, which is, well, in a sense, maybe like some other performances and so on. This won't be so easy then to figure if you had the idea. Do a little DJ mix. For one sort of example. It's only a few days until, well, as he tells me, the 24th of this month, that's when his birthday is. There's still something else that's being hyped up around that same time, too. In some other circles, in relation of releases of other things. It's also is another character's birthday, too, if I remember today. But at the moment, I won't disclose exactly what and whom it is. Before departure, certain other bit of info I want to search in one of the Wikipedia pages. Well, according in the current, number of layoffs that I've noticed, it's close to 1,000 positions lost and around the industry for this month. Given, last April, last time where there was more than 1,000. Whatever the case, well, there isn't very much unfolding, but this is a real whimper. And just, it's in a sense, the counter domination, which then effectively come. Though I'll be watching the other event, decider map. The decider, in this matchup after. Wouldn't really want to get in depth about it. There will still be some instances where matches will be like this, like that, and a few things. It's slippery, you know. It won't end until when I say. Little or nothing new. It perhaps might end with little dialogue here, but there's these important other little details still have to be considered, if especially when really launching the actual project in a deeper context. The digital actual efforts in doing, for example, the range of videos and other assets, for example, which it does take a bit of time really adjusting until it feels just right, at least to both my eyes and numerous other fundamentals, right? But I'll leave you on another note that is very important to remember. This is a line that's that we use in two different ways. Follow and understand the lines, right? Beginning now. It doesn't matter what tech we use. We manifest until our mind is satisfied. The first interpretation. The other. It makes no difference what tech we use. We manifest until our mind is satisfied. It's those two ways we say those lines. If it's familiar, it's because it's a bit, a subliminal message, which is right at the end of the intro video in the Arna Live 12 multimedia project, just before, that sound, like a little punch, and glitchy little visual before the game usually shows up, right after the intro. And that's the place where you people would have seen it. So you suggest I just exclaim, up next! We have this, and then we have that. This project does not use a schedule, unlike many other streamers which would utilize a schedule. Just like in the Arna Live 12 multimedia project, anything goes, and usually, no matter if it's this channel or on that main channel, to just stream whenever I feel, when the user feels ready. Remind others why these are little matters that still, if you ask me though, the importance where these are smaller matters that you shouldn't just try to cross out, right? Realistically, if you really need to keep a proper etiquette, it is still important. Remaining true to yourself, and it isn't exactly easy if you're young and inexperienced. It's just this even harder when finding your feet, and sometimes you just have to learn from others. In a sense, way back in 2016, that's what occurred with me. Or at least 12, in this instance. Was up there to try to support his emotional state. There's a lot of just false crap and contents that had to still come around. But it happens in every culture and every age. That and others who say that if you're yelling or shouting so loudly, they think it's abuse or other forms of, like violence or whatever. I'll give you a lesson. You really need to be careful in the context. They may make sense, but you might just describe it as nothing but vulgarity or a form of assaultive sort of behavior. In the end, it denies folks like us, where we need to be very clear what comes in our head. You can't interpret all forms of what was known as rage as simply just that. To the state and assault and or hostile behavior. I learned the hard way. Firstly, it doesn't mean it is, because it isn't all the time. But in the end, and let me be very straight about this, self-censoring actually is not easy. At the very start, the stream game itself can be chaotic for the ones who haven't wielded the experience. But then, other ways, other streamers come around is simply take off the chatting. If they do abuse, then the problem really lies with the user for keeping it on. But I'm in a different avenue. More specifically, that there's many circles in the mainstream I just cannot support at any capacity. Worse, many dark events happen behind closed doors as well. There's one message I will show up now. Stand by while I put it off. Be going off momentarily. Either way, there's many instances I'm just sick of reading the same story. We'll end it in 30. That's just the way it is. But yes, don't then think it'll all be non-stop streaming. You know, for several hours. Well, I still can do it if need be. It just comes back down, well, in two things. Your actual feelings at the time and, well, if you just commit to it. We're off right here, right now. Bye, folks. Stream is over. Close it.